They could not have made the race more ridiculous if they tried. It was August in Missouri, yet they decided to begin at the hottest part of the day and then withhold water from the athletes during the entire second half of the race in the name of science. Mid-run fuel ranged from rat poison to rotten apples, and in addition to running, other activities in which the competitors participated included hitchhiking, hallucinating, and taking a little nap. Ultimately, in a perfectly bizarre ending to a laughably chaotic race, it was won by a literal circus clown. Today is Saturday, August 30th, 2025, and on this day in 1904, 32 men ran the marathon at the St. Louis Olympics. In this very special pod-ception episode, I am joined by St. Louis resident and host of the Happy Pace podcast, Elaine Sims, and we will discuss every bizarre detail of the first Olympic marathon run on American soil. I'm your host, Running Up That Hillary, and you are listening to Today in Running History. It's another salty Saturday, and today's episode is sponsored by Salt Stick, my number one bestie in the world of electrolytes. But besides being what plants crave, what are electrolytes and why do we need them? Electrolytes are minerals that occur naturally in our bodies and include sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, and chloride. When you sweat, you don't just lose water, you lose these electrolytes as well. So it is as important to replenish those as it is to rehydrate. And you cannot do that by drinking water alone. That is where Salt Stick comes in. Their fast chews are a quick and tasty way to get electrolytes back into your body as you lose them through exercise, so you can avoid muscle cramps and maintain proper fluid balance. And they come in great flavors like watermelon, coconut, green apple, and mixed berry. Check out the link to Salt Stick in the episode description, and with it, you will automatically get 20% off of your order. They also recently came out with caffeinated fast chews, which are an absolute game changer, so check those out as well, and happy salty Saturday. Now it is podception time, so let's talk to Elaine Sims from the Happy Pace podcast about the 1904 Olympic Marathon. All right, I am here with Elaine Sims from the Happy Pace podcast for a very special podception episode of Today in Running History. How are you doing today, Elaine?
I'm great. How are you doing, Hillary?
I am fantastic. Why don't you tell us about your podcast?
Yeah, so Happy Pace Podcast is a podcast that me and my co-host Gretchen Bruni record while running, typically in Forest Park, St. Louis, Missouri. Forest Park is a very historical park that very much relates to the 1904 marathon. It is the home of the 1904 World's Fair and some of the Olympics events that happen there. So our podcast is full of history. We also interview running leaders in the community and in the different running niches out there, like our wheelchair athletes, our athletes who have disabilities as well. We love to include a plethora of leaders in our podcast.
Very cool. And then there's something that makes y'all's podcast unique and special, and that is that you do not record sitting at a desk like a lot of us do.
Yeah, we record while running. Typically, we do like a 5 or 6 mile loop of Forest Park while we run.
Yeah, pretty incredible. I can keep a conversation while running, but I don't know how eloquently I could do that if I was being recorded. So I'm always amazed, like when I'm listening and you guys are, you can occasionally hear you breathe or something, but like for me, it would be like, maybe four words at a time and all that. So I'm always impressed about that. And I will also make sure to link y'all's podcast in the episode description. And before we get into the 1904 Olympic Marathon, tell us a little bit about yourself and your running journey, and also what brought you to St. Louis, because you were not born and raised.
Yeah, so I was actually born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. Then I moved to Seattle for a little bit for a stint and then came to St. Louis, Missouri for a job. I have been running on and off since I was in like middle school. I was diagnosed with juvenile spondyloarthropathy it's a type of juvenile arthritis. So in middle school, I kind of were like in the later years, kind of was working through that. In high school, I was kind of working through that, and I finally found that, you know, the old adage, motion is lotion, with running really helped actually a lot with my arthritis. And so as an adult, I really started to get into it, and I have ran a couple marathons, couple ultras, and at this point, I just really love running for just the community of it. This year, I'm trying to run 2025 miles, you know, run the year
Oh
and
yeah.
pick up a piece of trash for every mile that I run. And I am keeping track of the trash that I'm picking up.
Oh, I
So
love that. And it had a word for it. You taught it to me and I forgot it. What is that?
it's called plogging,
Okay.
Plog. So it's a Swedish word for picking up trash while like jogging or running. And I like to say most of my runs are plogs at this point.
That's great. I love that. And more people should do that. I mean, more people should like not litter in the first place. Like ideally
Yeah.
this wouldn't be a thing at all. But as long as they keep doing that, more people should be doing that. I love that that's a thing. Now, you live in a very historic city, one of only three cities in the country to have hosted the Summer Olympics. Obviously, there's some more winter ones, but I don't know anything about that. So we'll focus on summer. And the very first time that the Olympics came to the United States was in 1904 to
Mhm.
St. Louis. So that Olympics before the marathon, it was there was some other stuff going on, right?
Yeah.
It was like the World's Fair, or what was it?
Yeah, so the World's Fair was happening concurrently with the marathon. The World's Fair was actually supposed to be held in 1903 to celebrate the Louisiana Purchase. Um, but they actually pushed it to 1904 and then stole the Olympics from Chicago, because
Oops.
Chicago was supposed to host the Olympics that year, and decided to run them concurrently. The city itself was going through a lot of changes with its air quality and its water quality due to the Olympics and the World's Fair. So a couple notable things that we are really grateful for is that we don't basically leading up to the World's Fair, they stopped burning the really, really harsh coal to
All
heat
right.
up their homes. And to help with the air quality, they built a bunch of greenhouses in Forest Park. And for our water quality, they buried a river that was full of bacteria and stuff and smelled. It was
So
sewer
basically a
water.
sewer. Yeah.
Yeah. They buried the river underneath Forest Park. And also, someone else figured out how to like de-lime the water at a large scale. I can never remember what it's called, but it's some sort of process. So St. Louis was taking all of that energy that had been created from the Industrial Revolution, and kind of figuring out how to solve it leading up to the World's Fair and the marathon.
I love that era. Like it's fascinating to me because it's the beginning of, all the modern stuff that we have now,
Yeah.
indoor plumbing and electricity and light bulbs and all this stuff. Like, and being the first time that a lot of people will have seen this stuff. Like I just think that's so cool. So obviously a lot of people were coming into St. Louis. The Olympics were going on. Now let's talk about the marathon. And also, I know you recently went around your town. You took some pictures, so I definitely want to make sure that we get those up here. So if I skip over anything, just pull me back. Tell me, oh hey, let's go over that picture, that video, because we got to talk about this.
Absolutely.
All right. Is there anything before we get to the marathon that we should cover?
Well, so I do want to talk about like I think two people that they were involved in the marathon. James E. Sullivan, who he was the race organizer, the games organizer, and then J.P. Lucas. They were both really instrumental in how the games were played out, because they thought of themselves as scientists and decided to try to dehydrate people, and that kind of relates to the whole World's Fair mentality, because a lot of the World's Fair was uh, testing on people and things. And unfortunately, some of that is a darker history of some babies being like uh, they were being tested on in some sort of NICU area. It was definitely an interesting time for them to do that. And then there was also just in St. Louis itself. St. Louis is incredibly hot and humid in August. So that's definitely played a huge part in the marathon.
Yeah, and Sullivan had decided that the marathon would be part of his experiment on the effects of dehydration. So all the participants in this race were unwilling participants, and so yeah, that's fun. That would be great. I don't know if were they told beforehand or did they just show up and it's like, oh, by the way, there's only one water stop and we're experimenting on y'all.
So to my knowledge, it sounded like they all just showed up at the starting line and ran whatever race they were told. Based on a couple of the like Felix Carvajal and then the South African runners who joined as well. They were just like basically joining day of. The Olympics then, it was the third Olympics of the modern Olympics, the first in the US. I think only 14 countries sent people in. So they weren't that big of a deal. And the World's Fair actually threatened to host their own games concurrently with the Olympics in 1904 to overshadow the Chicago one, which is how they stole it from them.
Wow.
And it just seemed like they kind of were disorganized and a little bit, yeah, definitely had a lot of unwilling participants.
Wow. So we got what, 32 people lined up at the start.
Yes.
And that was as of the day that this airs, that will be exactly 121 years ago. That's kind of insane, like to think about how long ago this was and how long Olympic marathons have been happening, at least for men.
Well, I
Um,
was about to say, you said 32 participants. They were all men.
yeah,
The
of
only game
course.
that year that the women could participate in was archery.
Yeah. Yeah, and it looks like there were a few that showed up and didn't run either. So
Yeah.
they got there like, nope, nope. No, thank you.
Well,
Which probably in hindsight was probably a great idea because of how many people ended up dropping out.
so it was 90 degrees at the starting line at 3 p.m. Um, so like I was looking at my real feel yesterday at 2 p.m., which fun fact, daylight saving times did not exist then, so it would have been 2 p.m. Like our time right now.
Yeah.
Um, and it was 110 degrees real feel outside. And it was like 95 degrees outside, but it was still crazy hot. And that was when they started. I don't know. You and I ran the Grandma's Marathon a couple weeks ago, and we were complaining about 64 degrees at the starting line.
The start, I mean, to be fair, it was like 100% humidity. So it
Yeah.
wasn't hot at that point, but we were like already sweating
Mhm.
and like just breathing the air. It was like we pretty much needed a scuba suit.
Yes.
So it wasn't hot at the start. It was hot as hell at the
Yes.
the last hour and a half of that race. But the beginning, it was like the humidity, and then you combine the two, and it's just terrible. And I can imagine that it was probably pretty humid for them on that day as well. So I don't blame the what is this, seven, eight people who decided not to start. That probably ended up being a good choice for
Well,
them.
and they didn't even shut down the roads for it. So, like, all of the cars were driving around kicking up the dust and the dirt because it wasn't asphalt.
Wow. Wow. So that's fun. So eventually 32 of them did cross the starting line
Mhm.
and they began in the stadium. They did a few laps there.
So,
Um
I have video of us just outside the stadium and a few photos of the gates.
yeah.
So, if you want to, I can share my screen, or if you want to just like look at the.
Yeah, no, we'll put them up. We'll put them up on here. I'll have Rob add it on there. I don't know how to do any of that stuff, but all of the
Okay,
videos and all the pictures we'll throw up on there. So you can
perfect.
talk through them and by the time this airs they'll be on there.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So right now, Francis Field still looks pretty similarly to how it was built. Like the stadium itself, there's a couple of photos, historic photos that I also included of the starting line and how the stadium looked like as it was being built. And Francis Field is very unassuming. It's on Washington University's campus. It's part of their rec center now. And it's one of two structures that really survived on the WashU campus from the 1904 Olympics / World's Fair. The other one is Brookings Hall, which is just like right next to it. And that was used as the admin building for the Olympics.
I
And the
love this gate. The like that's like the most 1904 gate. I love that that survived because this is such a cool look, and the smaller one too next to it. Like this is
yeah,
so cool. I love that.
and they have the Olympic rings right there. So there's like a video of Gretchen and I just walking around the Olympic rings, and they have the three steps. So bronze, silver, and gold can stand there. Which, fun fact, I think this was the first Olympic Games where they had bronze, gold, and silver medals awarded.
Oh yeah, I think because I covered the 1900 one, and I feel like they got like a cup or something like some
Yeah,
sort of like chalice or something, and I think it varied by event. I don't know.
yeah, yeah,
I have to go
yeah.
watch my own episode and see what it was because I feel like I talked about that, but
You're just full of knowledge now. That it's just going to get all melded together.
except it's they get so much in there that like some of it like falls out the other side, so I don't retain all of it. All right. So they started with a few laps, and before they even left the track, there was like at least one person who dropped out.
Yeah, so as they were exiting the stadium, one guy, I can't even remember his name, but he was the year before he had won the Boston Marathon, and he just dropped out right as they were leaving the stadium.
And I don't blame him. I mean, he's probably like he's like, "All right, I'll give it a shot." He does the track part. He's like, "Yeah, I'm not doing this for another 20 some miles." No,
Oh,
thank
I
you.
think it was Frank Pierce, I believe.
Okay.
So yeah, I was just like, yeah, no, I agree with you. I've definitely DNF, or I definitely would have DNF'd that.
Now let's talk about some of the other people that were in this race and some of the absolute chaos that went on between when it started and when the final finisher crossed. Um, what was it? Actually, they didn't even write it down. They didn't even write down the times. They wrote down the first like few people, and then everybody else. They're like, all right, they finished, and
The first four. So if
yeah,
you look at the or first three. So if you even
yeah,
look at the Olympics.com website,
yeah.
that's all they have is the results. So
So you can see who finished.
he finished it in 3:28:53, which really bad by Olympic standards.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, even for 95 degrees, like, you get Olympians of today out there and, a bad day is still going to be probably an hour faster than that at
Yeah.
the Olympic. But I mean, they're also running and whatever stuff and fuel. They had some fueling things along the way. Let's talk about that because that was something that made this one pretty unique.
Yeah, so I'm gonna close my window really quickly.
Okay.
Um, the they didn't really have many fueling options, and Charles J.P. Lucas decided to play a little scientist with our friend Thomas Hicks and gave him some strychnine, which, if you're familiar with strychnine, is rat poison. I'm not sure how many people are familiar with that. Sorry, my cat. And then so he gave him strychnine, very helpful with
As one
fueling.
does.
Yeah, I don't know, could you put some in your goo? um and then also brandy, because why not?
I mean, if you're gonna be poisoned, you might as well get some brandy. Like that part I get.
Yeah, yeah.
Not too bad.
And then egg whites, so some raw egg whites out there.
That's what you
uh
need.
I've read various reports. It was either one or two water stops. So imagine running a full marathon in 90 plus degree heat, 1 to 2 water stops.
No, the guy who dropped out before leaving the stadium, he had the right idea because he started the race. He has the same result as the people who dropped out like 20 miles in. So, he's an Olympian and all that. So he had the right idea here.
He went down in history, that's for sure.
So what was the effect of rat poison? Because I can't imagine that. I mean, obviously we know he won the race, but I can't imagine that during the race that helped or did it. Am I crazy for thinking that?
So it basically it sounds like how strychnine operates is that like it'll like pick you back up, but
Okay.
you can only have it in a little bit of like a tiny dose
Okay.
for it to be effective. Apparently he was like one more dose away from certain death.
Oh my God.
Um and there are a couple pictures. I don't know if I included one of the pictures of him being held up by his like trainers in my thing. I don't think I did. But yeah, his like, which definitely wouldn't fly today.
No.
Your
No.
trainers wouldn't be able to do that. But strychnine
No.
is on the banned list, on like the banned peds list. So
Wow.
he would have been disqualified
Wow. So
for
it's like
doping
considered performance enhancing.
in some way, shape, or form. Yeah.
Wow.
So like everything says like he would have been DQ'd had he been taking strychnine today. So
Wow. Wow. So I guess it did give him a little pick me up, and I'm sure the brandy helped him as well.
yeah,
And then there was at least one other runner in that race who also found some fuel along the way.
yeah. So Felix Carvajal was a Cuban mailman. He was not a professional runner until he decided that he wanted to do the 1904 marathon, and then he did like some like running expeditions to try to pay his way to the Olympics. Got to like traveled from Cuba to the US, got to the US, ran out of money by gambling. So then he had to like gamble his way up to the Olympics, showed up to the starting line in like wool pants. And then at this like 2 seconds before the starting gun went off, or a few minutes before the starting gun went off, someone finally was like, dude, you need to like cut those pants off. So they just literally like hacked at them and made them kind of like
Wow.
wool shorts, very
Yeah.
helpful. Um,
Still better
I
than full length pants, I guess.
yeah, I don't understand how he survived, but several miles into the race, he was like really hungry and he had stolen peaches along the route, and then he stopped at an apple orchard and stole some apples. Reportedly those were rotten and he took a nap for a little bit.
Wow. So he stopped and took a nap. That is like the most tortoise in the hair thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And he ended up finishing fourth. Or I
Yeah.
guess he finished fifth with the guy that was DQ'd. But I mean, so if he hadn't stopped and taken his nap, he probably could have ended up on the podium.
Yeah. Potentially.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's so funny. And let's see. Okay, and then there were also two runners that year from. Oh wait, no, wait. Let's go back a second
Yes.
because we talked about how Carvajal was a mailman. I
Yes.
want to talk about Thomas Hicks' profession because he was a clown. And
Oh
I
yeah.
and I love that so much. Like
My
I
God.
love that there was no concept of like, that like running was just like a bonus thing and during the week he was a clown.
Well, like, so that's the thing. Like nowadays, being a professional athlete is a full-time profession for
And they were
most people.
so serious back then
Yeah.
about Olympics being amateurs only. So
Yeah.
even if there was opportunity to be a professional runner, they couldn't be in the Olympics anyways. So they're out there paying their way, delivering the mail, making balloon animals, like all this. I just find that hilarious. I wish there was a photo. I'm gonna have to dig deeper into some serious archives and see if I can find a picture of Thomas Hicks in like full clown getup.
Yeah.
Especially because early 1900s clowns are terrifying, like even
Yeah.
scarier than like, normal clowns.
Well, so did they have latex to make balloons back then?
Oh, I assume so. Or maybe they made them out of something else. I know balloons were around. I don't
Okay.
know.
Yeah, what did yeah, okay.
I don't
Maybe they
know.
were all mylar.
Yeah, I have no idea, honestly.
But this is not a podcast about balloon
No, no,
history.
the history of clowning. Today in clowning history. That'll be my next endeavor. I'll work on that. I'll educate everybody on the history of that because I'm sure it's a rich history and we have many guests to bring on that one.
Is that podcast hosted by Clowning Up That Hillary?
Oh, I love that. Oh my God. Oh, and then I can get like different clowns through history and they can come as guests, but they have to be in like full get up. Oh, this is great. I'm planning like years in ahead. Once I run out of running events to cover, that's what we're doing next. So let's go back to that field. So, another thing that made this year unique was that there were two athletes from South Africa, and they were actually part of the I'm gonna Sawana tribe. Am I saying that right? Sawana tribe. I hope so.
I don't know. I can't confirm if you're saying that right. But I can confirm. But yeah, they were part of the tribes that were like performing at the World's Fair.
And so and they were the only black athletes
Hmm.
in the entire Olympics, and they were the only black South Africans to compete at the Olympics at all until what 1988 or something like that, like or 92, something like that. I just covered like last week something that had to do with South African history. I am like not the most familiar with all of that. Um, but I know that during their apartheid,
Yeah.
they were banned from the Olympics, and so no one from that country at all was allowed for like a long time. And I think it was until like 88 or 92, like something like that. And so,
They really shot themselves in the foot with our apartheid
yeah,
there.
I know. Yeah, well, who'd have thought that would be not globally embraced.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so that was another milestone in that they both ended up finishing. Um,
So and then on top of that, I think like James E. Sullivan was pretty not my understanding is that he had some interesting views on race. So I think to have two black runners in the race in the Olympics for the first time ever, I'm curious how James E. Sullivan would have reacted to that at the time.
Yeah, honestly, I'm gonna have to look more into that because the article that I read kind of just has it as a like footnote. Like
Yeah.
they were there, they were the first, and then apartheid, and it didn't end for 86 years. So
Well, and
so
that's the thing. They just seem to be like a footnote in history. If you look
yeah.
at the photo that I shared of them, this is a photo that's in the Missouri Historical Society archive. And I had to cross out I had to Google what the word was because I don't know that many offensive terms.
Yeah.
But I had to like cross out an offensive term that
Oh, I
was
see that.
part of
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Well,
Um,
good.
so like this is I feel like such a like this is more important in history than
Oh,
um
absolutely.
we ever really know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I did some episodes about some of the first Black American athletes to compete and win medals at the Olympics
Mhm.
later on, like 20 years later or so. And uh, and yeah, I didn't even think about, from other countries and all of that, like those milestones. So I'm gonna look that up so that I can put more information on that in the like intro to this episode or the outro or something so that we get some more information on them. And then I want to talk about the original winner of this race and how that worked out for him.
So Fred Lors was the original winner. he got to the finish line, and President Roosevelt's daughter was like about to like award him his medal, and he finally fessed up that he had hitched a ride for a large portion of the 40-kilometer route because it wasn't the whole 26.2 that we know today. That didn't start until I can't remember what year
Is
that was.
1908 was the first one because I have an episode on it.
Yeah, I was like, I know I've listened to her talk about
Yeah.
it. It was 1908 was the first 26.2
Yeah.
because of Queen Victoria.
Yeah, yeah. It
Yeah.
was like it was like the landmark, like like the castle, and then they wanted it to end in the stadium, and then they wanted to add some running around the track and all that stuff.
So this 40-kilometer portion, I'm not sure how long he was in a car for, but it was several miles. And then he jumped out of the vehicle that he was hitchhiking in and ran into the stadium. And everyone was just cheering him on. He rode that wave until President Roosevelt's daughter was trying to award him. And then he finally fessed up to it.
Oh, was
So
that Alice?
yes.
Oh my God, she's my favorite. She's like one of my favorite historical figures like of all time. And so that's a whole separate thing. So she was a badass. She was like pretty much you take like a like rebel teenager of today and put them in there, and that's how she was. Like she would go hang out on the roof smoking cigarettes and all this stuff. And there was this like famous quote by Roosevelt, and I use this on about my own daughter. Because she is very much like Alice Roosevelt. But the quote was something like, she came into some meeting at the White House and interrupted it, and then a different person in it said to the president, they're like, you can't you get a handle on your daughter or something like that? And he said, I can either run the country or I can control Alice. I cannot do both. And it's like I love that woman. She's like my like icon. She's the best. And I always say that about my daughter as well. Like it's so funny. Like I'll say the same thing. I'm like, I can either have a regular life. I can either do anything else at all, or I can control. I call her Cadence, but I cannot do both. So that's a whole other side note. She's the best. But okay. So anyway, she's gonna give Fred Loris this medal, and then the news comes out.
Yeah, he jumped in a car. He was DQ'd. So Fred Loris, he went on to win the Boston Marathon, I believe, the next year.
On his
But
feet.
yes, on his feet.
Okay.
Legit. At least that's what we hope it actually is. But yeah, this is the race that he's known for, the one that he fake accepted the award for, and
That's
people
so
were cheering him
funny.
on. And then a little bit later, Thomas J. Hicks was he was like being propped up by his trainers for the last little bit. Finally got
Hallucinating,
oh,
probably.
he was. He doesn't even remember like they've interviewed he like doesn't like remember he like looked like a zombie when he's in the like carriage that they're parading him around in afterwards. The dude is like
Uh,
paler than anyone I've ever seen. We've all seen people like at the end of a race
yeah.
just flop into the
Yeah.
yeah. No, he looks like a zombie, and like he looks like he lost like 30 pounds in 10 minutes or something.
Wow.
Like all of his water weight gone.
Wow. And he was like 15 minutes after
Yeah.
Fred Loers. So there was a little bit of time there, and then so he ended up winning. He survived. He survived his strychnine just barely, but he did it. And then is there anything else about this about this race that we should talk about?
Um, I don't have anything else on my list. Yeah, no, I this was just like such a fascinating part of history that personal note, like my fiance and I one of the first things that he showed me was the video about the 1904 marathon, and like I was obviously super into him at this point, but I was like, wait, this is so cool, and this guy's really cool. So it kind of brought us together even closer.
That's amazing.
And then on another personal note, so I actually worked at a running shoe store called Big River Running. And one of its locations is on North and South Road, which is along the running route. So you like it's like a few blocks away from one of the signs that says this was part of the 1904 World's Mar or Olympic Marathon photos. So people are not many people like know that, and I actually showed and was like telling my coworkers like we're working on running history. Like this is where the 1904 marathon like was held, right here on this road in front of our store. So
That's
that's always,
amazing.
yeah, it's always really interesting to like just be out and about and realize that you're running past history.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I need to come out, visit St. Louis, go for a run, eat some rotten peaches and some strychnine and just recreate the entire thing, ride in a car for a lot of it. That might help. We'll do the whole 9 yards.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm not going to force you to do the full 26 or 24.85 miles that
That's okay. I can do that as long as most of it's in a car. I
yeah,
can I can do that. And as long as the poison, we can just save the poison for the end.
yeah,
Just like
yeah.
a little.
Just do
So,
the first 5 laps at Francis Field, hop in a car,
yeah.
drive
Yes.
around, come
And then a
back.
little bit of poison, finish, and then we'll deal with the effects of strychnine.
Well, I did go out and buy eggs if we want to.
Okay, perfect. We'll do it. Well, Elaine, thank you so much for joining me today. This was great.
Absolutely. No, but I did actually buy eggs if we want to do a little me eating a raw egg.
Yeah, let's do it. Eat a raw egg.
We'll see
Watch
how.
you do it.
Oh God, my mom's gonna be so disappointed in me.
Hold on
I'm
2 seconds. Okay.
okay.
Okay, go for it. Okay, so we are going to, in honor of Thomas Hicks, you are going to take a shot of brandy and then chase it with a raw egg. We are going to skip out on the rat poison this time. We'll
That's
save,
where we need to come
yeah, we'll
visit.
save that. We'll save that, and I appreciate you waiting for me, so that it's a special moment for us when I do get to St. Louis. But cheers to Thomas Hicks. All right, let's see that egg.
There's that egg in here.
I'm like hundreds of miles away, and I'm just like, how was that? Do you want to go win a marathon? Do you want to run a marathon?
I could do it. I could do it.
All right. Oh, that's awesome. So what races do you have coming up? Like, what's your next goal race?
So my mom, just mild reaction. My mom's gonna be really disappointed that just happened.
That's okay. I disappoint my mom daily, so it's okay. It's okay.
We are the Alice Roosevelts of our family.
Yes. Yes.
So I have the Detroit International Half coming up. I'm really excited for that. And then there's this one race that's in my like right outside my hometown in Ohio that is at Squires Castle. It's a trail race and anywhere from like a 5K to 100K for people, and you can get knighted at the end. Yeah, it's fun. It was the castle itself was built by an oil baron around the turn of the century. So Squire was his
Yeah.
last name, and then he died, and then they gave the land to the Metro Parks. So it's part of a huge collection of Metro Parks on the east side of Cleveland, and it's just gorgeous. I used to hang out there all the time in middle school. We would bring out a Ouija board there to try to summon some spirits and figure out if boys liked us. So part of my history and the history of Cleveland.
That is so cool. Actually, I got married at a castle, at a like early 1900s castle built by an oil baron. But it was in New
What?
Hampshire, not in Ohio. Yeah.
Oh
Which
my
is
God,
so
that's so
funny. Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, but there's no race that ends up being knighted or anything. There are some races in Manchester, New Hampshire, but none specifically with the castle. So that is so cool. So I hope you have an amazing race. Make sure to pack the eggs and the brandy.
Yes.
Maybe pick up some rotten fruit along the way. Take a nap if you need to. Ride in as many cars as your body is telling you to. They say, listen to your body. And if your body is telling you to hitchhike, you know,
Well, there are plenty of apple orchards nearby, so
excellent.
I'll just steal some fruit.
Perfect. Well, I cannot wait to see that. And then again, Happy Pace podcast. Can't wait to listen to the recaps of those races, and I will link all of that in the episode.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Wow, shout out to Elaine for trying out some 1904 running fuel, sans strychnine, so none of us have to. I could honestly keep talking about this marathon forever, so let's do one more day. Join me tomorrow as we learn more about Lynn Tunyane and Jan Mashiani, the two South African men who Elaine and I just barely touched upon, and who were the first two Black athletes to compete in the Olympics. Once again, it is Salty Saturday, so check out the link in the description to save 20% off of your salt stick purchase. And then check out the link to the Happy Pace podcast featuring our wonderful guest, Elaine Sims. I'm your host, Running Up That Hillary, and this has been Today in Running History. When you sweat, you don't just lose water, you gosh. So you can avoid muscle cramps and maintain. Okay. And then here's the interview. Hey, Elaine. Oh, hi, Hillary. Oh, this is really cool. Let's talk about this. Yeah, I'm gonna eat a raw egg. Oh, wow, that was weird. Okay.